Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hotsport. Is Thomas Frank under pressure now already in his first season as Tottenham Hotspur manager? Cole Palmer might get his chance now to return back to the Chelsea lineup with the suspension of Moises Caicedo. Is he able to continue the form that he was on prior to his injury at Chelsea? And also, finally, Arsenal may have drawn against Chelsea on the weekend, and it could be a good result as long as they continue to win. All that's here and more right here on this episode of Hotspot. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Welcome back to Hotsport. Make sure you're hitting the like button. Make sure you're subscribing to this network, to this beautiful, beautiful network. And I've gone, sorry for you guys, I've got the winter overlays. So I'm just trying to do this. But yeah, we're this very early midweek edition of Under Pressure. We did one of the tiers early today. Go back, check out Anton's tiers heading into this week. It's an essential. But guys, we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to talk about heading into these midweek fixtures. Who is under pressure now? I've got a little bit creative this week because some of the guys who were under pressure answered the bell. Let's revise this before we move in. So we put Arne Slot under pressure. Liverpool won. Man United were under pressure. They won. Now the other ones, Anthony Gordon, I still think that his position is still under pressure. It's not going to be one that's going to be an ongoing thing because I just want to feature other storylines, other headlines on this show. Semenyo, again, I do think that continues to be an under pressure thing, but it was just a point that I wanted to make. And then I made it twice just because before he played, I think he played pretty decently for Bournemouth the other day, but they did lose. But I do want to give a personal shout out to Alexander Isak because he scored his first Liverpool goal in the Premier League, and it took him long enough to do it, but if he didn't do it, I would have put him back up. I would have literally put him on this list today. And so, by the way, one goal, let's just make this very clear for how much he was paid, does not get him off the hook for the rest of the season, but it's a start. I just wanted to point out, Isak, congratulations, right? You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and be shameless and ignore when the guys who I put under pressure start doing well. By the way, Florian Wirtz, I think, also played pretty well for Liverpool this weekend. He had a massive part in that Alexander Isak goal. So again, guys, we don't really run agendas here. I mean, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. We run agendas. Anyway, guys, it's time now for Under Pressure. Let's hit it. Okay, guys. So who is on the chopping block this week? Who is under pressure? And yeah, we've got three brand new ones for you this week. Well, one that's returning under similar pretenses from other times we put them there. And you'll see what I mean when we get there. But guys, let's begin. And as we do, our main focus is generally on managers because they're the most entertaining under pressure ones. And this one surprised me. Actually, before I put them up on the screen, I want to give a shout out, by the way, to the network in which I watch Premier League games on Stan Sports, because, you know, first of all, Craig Foster is a legend of the game. We got Mark Bosnich, former Man United goalkeeper, actually, former, obviously, keeper of Australia. I think he played for Villa as well, so he's a big part of their pre- and post-match team. And, of course, you got old Robbie Slater, Australian football legend. You guys might not know much about him, but in Australia, he's a big deal. Anyway, of course, in Australia, Ange Postecoglou is a key figure. And this take was one that was interesting. They spoke about Tottenham's match against Fulham on the weekend in their reaction let me just play you this for you now. And some of the stuff that they said here just was quite interesting to me. And I thought I might play it here for you, for the people. So let's hit it.
Thomas Frank at Spurs.
Yeah.
So we've got 4 months of, evidence about where Spurs are at, as opposed to where they were at, or where they were going or not going under Ange Postecoglou, however you want to look at it. Boz, which way are they going under Thomas Frank?
Well, it's quite evident, isn't it? Last season, in Ange's season, 13 games played, 20 points, 7th position under Ange Postecoglou. Right now, Thomas Frank, 13 games played, 10th position, 18 points. So 2 points difference as well. After 13 games, which I think is a fair way to sort of measure somebody, at least after 10 games. They've conceded 11 goals in this last week. It's been poor, to say the least. One of the worst performances I've seen from a Spurs side in a North London derby. Not as much shame going up against Paris European Championship and copping 5.
They actually played okay now.
Yeah, but on the weekend, I mean, I think even the most ardent loyal Spurs fan would have to admit at half-time, it could have been 3 or 4 that they were down.
Definitely.
All right, they were down 2. Okay, second half, and we all know about teams, right? Generally when teams are 2-0 down, they start playing, and they get a bit of a reputation that they only start playing when they're 2-0 down. They've got to be very, very careful, because in their next games coming up,
Tough.
They've got Brentford, which is obviously the manager's old club. After that, they've got Newcastle coming up tomorrow morning. And Brentford on the weekend at home. Home's been a big problem for them. That's psychological. Slavia Prague in the Champions League, which should be okay. But then, Forest away, Liverpool at home. If they happen to lose, let's say, I don't know, 4 out of those 5 games, I think the calls that we've started to hear about possibly changing manager, they're sort of at medium, they'll become at a high volume.
How many times are they going to change manager?
Well, because they're under new management now, effectively as well. So
well, that's the thing. So that's a good point as well. Yeah. So, and a lot of people, and I'll hold my hand up, we are biased in terms of Ange Postecoglou, but I've actually heard a lot of Spurs fans actually say, well, and that was our point at the end, right? At least give him 10 games at the start of the season after what he achieved. Would it be
injuries?
Would it be a possibility that they would look to bring him back? Daniel Levy's gone. There was obviously the problem was between Daniel Levy and Ange. Would that be a scenario where they would say, okay, should we bring him back? Perhaps not. Sometimes big clubs are just like, no, okay, we just do it. But I don't actually see because the players obviously had a massive connection with him. Yeah. At this moment in time, it's quite evident that a lot of the players are a little bit distant, and whether that's because of the way that he's playing or because of his man management style or some things that we don't know about, we're not quite sure. But I don't think it's outside the realms of possibility that they're not considering that.
And Bozza, I think Thomas Frank's suffering from what Ange ironically did at Nottingham Forest. Nunes was loved by the Forest fans, and Ange came in, so it was almost an uphill battle. Yeah. Unless he won games straight off, bang, bang, because the fans they didn't want him to leave. And now I think Thomas Frank's in the same sort of
I think that's right.
situation.
This makes it more difficult.
Yeah, because everyone loved Ange and the way he played, and it's chalk and cheesy, right?
Yeah, and so it's
So Daniel Levy. So when Daniel Levy was still at the club and they made the decision about Ange, it was okay. We've got something to build off here and springboard off the Europa League triumph. We want to contend in the Premier League. Do you see it? The type of football that they're playing?
Well, no. I mean, no one can see it at the moment. The thing about it is, it was just the whole thing was very poorly managed because I think Andrew's come out and said that he already knew well ahead, actually, at the end of the season.
Anyway, I think we've gone too far in this video. The point is, did you hear that? They think they should bring Ange back to Tottenham. Yes, Thomas Frank is the manager under pressure this week. By the way, I hope that video goes through because Stan generally really protects their videos with copyright. So I hope that one works for everybody. I don't think that this segment in particular is copyrighted, but anyway, guys, we should be all good. But yeah, Thomas Frank is the man who is under pressure at the moment, and this isn't the only one. Like, I was on a discussion earlier this week. We'll get to that in a moment, but as well, they discussed this with Abby from on DR Sports. about the, and it's just this, to be honest, the idea mind boggles me, and I will give my perspective after we've played these videos. You also see kind of a little bit of my perspective when we play a clip after this one. But first, this is Abby from DR Sports, also TalkSport, and she had this to say about Thomas Frank, and I found this take a little bit interesting as well. And look, I think it's good to take this type of stuff on board. I'm going to give my opinion on it afterwards. By the way, some of the facts that were pointed out on Stan Sport are interesting. Like, I didn't really realize that Tottenham were 2 points worse off than they were a year ago, the start of the season. Now, remember, Tottenham finished 17th last year. So the slide would have been not really taking place at this point in the season, but maybe in a little bit later on in the year, last year. And I think mainly as they started to go on that run for the Europa League. But still, the idea, again, maybe there is a little bit of a revision of history on Ange Postecoglou, which is what they're trying to say. But the idea that Thomas Frank should get sacked, I think, is crazy. But anyway, let's listen to what Abby had to say. Because, there are some valid points being made by many people about why they believe that there's a case for why Frank could be on the hot seat at Tottenham.
Thomas Frank, I want to state that I genuinely do think that Thomas Frank is a good manager. I do. I just don't think he's right for Tottenham. I really don't. I was talking about this yesterday. I was talking about this yesterday, okay, about a connection that you tend to have with a manager, right? Spurs fans had this connection with Ange early on because obviously the football was so much more positive than what we'd had under Conte and the back end of that season. And obviously the first 10 games, he won. With Thomas Frank, it's a style of football that nobody really wants because it's obviously a lot more negative, a lot more pragmatic, which is fine. Fans can get on board with that if you are winning games, if you are seeing improvements. For the first few games, I think there were signs of improvements. We weren't conceding all the time. Yes, it wasn't sexy by any stretch, but you were getting the results over the line for the most part. So it allowed you to be like, okay, well, let's see what he can do here. After the Chelsea game, which I thought would be an anomaly for that level of performance, the lack of any type of hunger, determination, fight, putting up the XG numbers that we did, I thought, okay, this is where I need to really decide if I'm going to get on or off this train. It wasn't an anomaly because it happened again, probably even to a worse degree, against Arsenal. The PSG game, whatever, that I can kind of put that to one side because again, we did concede 5, correct? Scored 3. It was a little bit better. 2 of those are individual errors, right?
Weren't great against Man United.
So weren't great against Manchester United. Conceded that last minute goal as well, back post. There's been many, many games this season where Spurs have not been good enough. Do I put that on the players?
Villa.
Yes. Do I put that also on Thomas Frank? Yes, I do. Do I put that on poor recruitment over the last X amount of years? Yes, I do. Do I think that Thomas Frank can change it around?
What a balloon. Be honest.
I think if he was given a lot of time, maybe, because I can go off of what he did at Brentford.
He be given that? He needs transfer.
I can go off of what he did at
How
Brentford
long is
and player development. I can go off of how he developed a lot of players from that team up into even in the Championship, brought them into the Premier League, and then have all gone on to various other clubs, and also had cemented Brentford as being a very good team in the Premier League. I think that is his role. Tottenham in the position that Tottenham are in after last season, finishing 17th. The squad is not good enough generally. It's not. I don't think it's anywhere near being a top 4 side. I think it's probably between a 6th and a 10th side, if they're all pulling and in the same direction. They're not great in terms of you drop below probably six or 7 players that are probably very good. Don't have anyone that's a standout. Do I think that he's going to get the time? Probably not. The only difference is obviously now Daniel Levy isn't there. If Enoch want to give him that time, because again, Rome Rome wasn't built in a day. Things don't change overnight. You need X amount of windows. He's had one window. No, I'm not done. He had one window, which was good. Pellegrini is a good signing. Kudus is a good signing.
I agree.
So you either want to entrust him, well, Xavi Simons, I'll remain till the end of the season to pass a judgment on him. But on paper, it's a good start. There is a lot of work still to be done at Tottenham. If they want to entrust him to do that, then fine, and we'll just write the season off yet again. But the problem is the football that's being played. That as a fan, You cannot charge the higher season ticket prices and expect fans to not be happy. Do I agree that they boo one individual player? No, I don't.
Yeah.
I think boo the whole team to your heart's content. They deserve
agree
it.
with Thomas Frank there?
I agree with that.
Especially a goalkeeper.
I don't. I think that's completely like it's unconstructive.
It's not going to help.
It's not going to help anything.
They didn't boo him once. They booed him every time.
He's
That's
made
really
a mistake.
bad. I've seen it happen to Maguire.
He's made a mistake. Okay, he's owned it. Like what's done is done. You're 2-0 down.
He didn't own it on the pitch.
He couldn't own it on the pitch, but
He should have put his hands up.
Sure.
And you know what? That weren't just his mistake. He made a bad mistake, but where the defenders getting back as well? Did you hear what Harry Wilson said? He said, when I saw no one getting back on the line, I thought, let's have a crack at it.
Yeah, which is fair. Fair enough to the opposition. But look, he's owned it. He comes out after the games, and it's done. I'm not going to keep going in and hammering him. But as Spurs fans booing him every time he's on the ball, do you think that's going to help him? Like he's the closest player to you as the fans. That's not going to help him. And you know, he can be a shaky keeper as it is, not constructive, not conducive. In terms of the performance, not good enough. And that ultimately comes back.
But what about Fulham?
No, wait, hold on before we get to Fulham.
Okay.
Carry on.
Right, because
Please do.
All right. I'm going to pause here because I think Abby said enough. What I would... So the thing is, it's not my club, right? So this is Tottenham. My big rivals. I'm just going to say my take, but I'm kind of wanting to just kind of out loud kind of say maybe understanding the Tottenham faithful. I think this comes back to what they were saying on Stan as well, right? Which is, okay, so what they said on Stan, which is at this point last season, Tottenham were on 20 points. Now they're on 18 at the exact same standpoint. From what the Tottenham fans think was that under Ange, they were at least playing a better brand of football, which so they could stomach it because the football was looking better on the pitch. Now they feel like they're back to playing an Antonio Conte type of football, brand of football, which is a bit boring. And the results aren't getting any better. I'm starting to piece together why the Tottenham fans feel this way. For me, I feel like, and I'm going to get into what I said on Friday when we were in this debate on Six-Sided. But for me, I feel like Tottenham this year, we saw them in preseason. They were well organized. They were well structured. They were tough to break down. Also thought they made some good signings in the summer. I also think they've been unlucky a little bit with some of the injuries that they've had to key players. I mentioned in the Six-Sided Kulusevski, James Maddison. I think there are a few others out there that are important to note. We'll get back to them. But regardless, those are the main ones. There are a few other ones. It's late at night, by the way. It's almost 10 p.m. when I'm recording. But yeah, again, you saw them start the way they started the season. They had a good win away at the Etihad. I think they started off very, very well. And I just thought this is a team that has grown and they're playing a structure. I think, Frank, if you look at the way that Brentford has played, and that's kind of what Abby was alluding to, I think you give him enough time and you let him to settle, he can create something that is solid, that has a higher floor than what Ange Postecoglou had. I think that is for certain. The thing is that all teams have their ups and downs in the season. Some teams' downs are going to last longer than other teams' downs. Tottenham started from the 17th position where they were at last year. And I think they've improved on that. Now, I did mention this on the tiers that the fixtures get really, really tough now for Spurs because they do have Newcastle to come up, and I think that could be another loss for them, right? They've got they're fixed away from home, right? Then you're gonna play Brentford, Thomas Frank's former side, at home, so that's gonna be interesting because Brentford right now this year have got been grim reapers. Their former ones. They went after Burmo when they played Man United. They went after who was it? Who's the other one? Awissa when they played Newcastle. They started singing Awissa. Interestingly enough, Christian Norgard We'll play them again today, but the big one is Thomas Frank, obviously, and that's going to be a tough game. Then they've got Nottingham Forest away. I think that should be one that they should win, in all honesty. Then they got Liverpool. Let's take you to the midway part of the season. Then Tottenham play Crystal Palace away. That's not going to be easy. And then let's match week 19. Then you have the reverse fixture. I think that'll be a loss away at Brentford. So that one might be the one where they really get it. And then at match week 19, they've got Sunderland at home. Okay. The thing is that before they get to some of the easier ones, I think they're going to drop more points from now on till then as well. But it can't always be about so short-sighted when it comes to managers, and that was the point that I kind of brought up on 6 Side the other day. Bottom line, I wouldn't sack Frank. I don't think that the idea of switching managers so often is a great idea. Now, some teams, like I recommend, United fans believe that Amorim isn't a good fit, and sometimes that is just a reason why you should just cut bait so early, and sometimes it becomes obvious that it wasn't a good fit, maybe for the fans. And it's seeming what Abby is saying, she does not feel that Thomas Frank is the right fit for Spurs. So, that is an interesting one. Let's see. This is what I said, by the way, on 6-Sided. The discussions with Thomas Frank, and I kind of interluded. I said this is ridiculous. KJ, had went on a little bit of thing, but this is when he kind of let me just kind of discuss my position a little bit further. Let's take a listen to what I said before on Friday on 6-Sided.
What I'm just saying is, like, first of all, I think Thomas Frank has had Tottenham playing very well overall this season. Look at the improvement. Like, you guys forget where you guys were last year. You're in 17th. Like sometimes you just need to take a step back and look at the big picture. Man United as well. Man United has also improved from last season. Like, it doesn't take 5 minutes to all of a sudden see success. You don't change the manager and all of a sudden, boom, voila, everything is fixed. Like, okay, you have a couple bad performances, but all of a sudden now we're going to throw the manager out. In that case, you'll have 7 managers a season. Like,
the thing is, I can.
That's the trouble. People demand instant success, and it's ridiculous.
But demanding success what are we basing this off of? Like,
that's a good question. What is the success that people are chasing after that so much that after a couple of games, the manager needs to be sacked?
But the biggest issue that I can see why I don't think this is fact. I don't think it should be. But the only reason why I can understand from, say, maybe Spurs fans' point of view, the people that go to games, you can get all your home fans in while they're at the home stadium, and Spurs' home form has been absolutely dreadful. So the fans that go to the games, they're seeing some pretty dross performances. Apart from when Spurs are away, they've been absolutely amazing. Like before, they were the highest.
Maybe the home fans need to fix up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I can see, but let's be honest, right? Thomas Frank's used to managing a mid-table team, so I don't think he's out of his depth at all.
Yeah, so it's an interesting debate. Oh, to be fair, I think a lot of the people who believe that Frank should be out make a good case. Like, I can understand the point of view, but at the same time, I just think it's way too soon to make such a decision. I think, you're going to have your dips this season. You know what's so interesting? Sometimes I feel like that it has to be sacked when it becomes untenable. I don't believe that's the case with Thomas Frank. I think that later on in the season, they're going to have another good run of games. They're going to get on a hot run at some certain point in the year. Okay? But if you sack him before you get there, then you're inventing the wheel. You're bringing in some sort of interim manager or a new manager, and you're just creating chaos. Because, again, Mohamed Kudus, Javi Simmons, all those players that were brought in the summer, Paulinho, like, those are players who are brought in to play for Thomas Frank. Colin Muani. You're wasting those signings because then you're going to hand them off to a new manager who may not like you want these players, they don't fit into the way he wants to play. That's why I always find mid-season sackings to be like, it has to be the last possible thing. Things are falling off to the point where like it's really, really bad. And I just don't get a sense of that with Spurs. Remember, Spurs were 17th last year. That's all I'll say. And by the way, to bring Ange Postecoglou back, I just think is a crazy take, and only takes that may be made by Australians. All due respect to those guys, but I do get their points. Let's moving on. By the way, with the cold theme we got here, why not add the player to be under pressure, Cole Palmer? And I won't take too long on this one. The reason why I say he's under pressure is this. Chelsea fans have sort of, I think, to be fair, and we've discussed this on my other show. We'll discuss this on Fire Them Cannons when we get to it. Look, Chelsea fans are starting to get excited. I think they're starting to believe in what this team can do. And I think a lot of what they were thinking was like, no, we're doing all this with Cole Palmer being out. And by the way, as an Arsenal fan, if I was like, by the way I talk about Arsenal, that goes aligned with how they're talking about Chelsea. I think that's a fair statement to make. But I did watch them on this weekend, and Reece James played like two men playing in the midfield. And so, yeah, I just got a message, so I got distracted. Generally, he's playing at left back, but because they're able to play right back, because they're able to play Malagusta there, Maresca played with Reece James and Caicedo as a midfield pivot. Now, Enzo is playing up in the 10. Now, Enzo is generally a number 8. So there's a potential here, given the way Reece James played. By the way, we also got Andre Santos, that Cole Palmer comes back into the lineup now for Chelsea. But here's why he's under pressure for me. Because prior to his injury, I felt Chelsea actually weren't really playing that well. They were a bit inconsistent. They've also had some of their best performances of the season without him in the lineup. They've started to be less Cole Palmer FC, which I think in a certain way could also take the pressure off of him, because he doesn't need to necessarily be the man like he was before. But I saw Enzo playing in the 10. I thought he was good. I thought the midfield balance that they had prior to Caicedo getting sent off, with Caicedo, Enzo, and Reece James, and by the way, many times with Caicedo, Enzo, and Andre Santos, has been good. In fact, they've been improving. They're challenging for the league. Cole Palmer, I think, needs to hit the ground running. A, to I think sort of just kind of reaffirm his spot in the team, and B, to like, I don't know how I necessarily describe it, but to be relevant, because Chelsea are winning without him. So he needs to maintain that level, and there's an expectation that Cole Palmer is going to come and take him to the next level. That's what I was trying to get to. And that's what he's got to do. And yeah, I think maybe the fact that they've been playing so well allows them to ease him back in. Like he didn't come on against Arsenal. He was on the bench. He was available to go. But I think maybe a big part of that, it was just that the 10 men didn't give them the leeway, or like it wasn't an appropriate substitution to make with the game plan being switched after they were down on 10 men. Just interesting thought. Just on Cole Palmer, I just think he's a little bit under pressure now to kind of take the spotlight back. West Esteval has really taken the spotlight now at Chelsea. Do I think Cole Palmer will be good? Yes, I do. But he's going to have to not just be good, but he's going to have to stay fit now. I think he could be in a set. This is one of the reasons why I think that they definitely could be title challengers, is because they do have that extra level. Their talisman is now coming back. Let's see what effect he has on the team. Because I could say similar things about some of my Arsenal players now. Like Martin Odegaard, for instance. I think he's needing to find his way back into the team. Arsenal have found a way to play very well without Martin Odegaard. Now he's going to have to kind of find his way back in the team, and that is kind of what I mean when I'm talking about Palmer. I could have put Odegaard on this list too. I could have put like Gyökeres on this list too. There are a few Arsenal players who are facing similar things. Kai Havertz, when he comes back, like where does he play? So there's a little bit of a pressure to kind of just win the manager's heart and to reestablish yourself as the guy in this squad after such a long time out. Let's move on now to the team that's most under pressure, and that is my club, Arsenal. By the way, I mentioned Martin Odegaard, who's now featured in the graphic. So here's the thing. On review of the game, and by the way, I kind of was thinking this a little bit because sometimes you want to look at all scenarios, best case scenario, worst case scenario. And I was thinking, you know what? A draw in general might not be that bad because it's still 6-point gap with Chelsea. Okay, City cut it to 5, but 5 is still a substantial lead. But Arsenal must bounce back right away with a victory. To make this Chelsea result a good result away from home, we need to do well in this Christmas period now. Because I'm seeing Brentford, Villa, those are 2 games in a row. So like I'm seeing a team that's a little bit tired. Arteta's gonna have to find a way to rotate. He's got some of his guys coming back. And of course, like the other part that puts under pressure is like I do not expect Saliba to be out of the lineup. And I know I'm a guy who goes on about the depth of Arsenal squad, but I think you've got to keep things. There's only a certain limit to how much you do. Like when I say depth, I mean one of Saliba or Gabriel is out and the other one can step in. With a brand new back 2 center back pairing in there, it disjoints the entire spine of the team. Declan Rice is having to come back, kind of play as a third center back to kind of protect those a little bit more, which doesn't allow him to do the other stuff he does all over the pitch. I think it affected Zubimendi's play because Zubimendi started to basically become almost isolated in midfield the other day. So the injury issue is still creeping up. Just when you think we're getting players out, the injury issue continues to creep up in just different areas. So now while our attacking guys are coming back, now our defense, which was mostly healthy, is now, Gabriel's gonna be out for a substantial period of time. We don't know. He apparently he's just protecting Saliba, and he could be back for the Brentford game. But Arsenal need to win the Brentford game. The thing is, a lot of people were saying, and this is going to be my closing argument before we end the show on the Arsenal, while they're under pressure. The people who speak to me about me getting ahead of myself will always maintain, like, I want to see what it looks like after the Christmas period, once we're into January. Once we've gotten through that busy period of fixtures, how does Arsenal come out the other side? The pressure now is for Arsenal to show everybody that they are different in a different way. Now we're up to that Christmas fixture list. At the moment, things are good. 5-point lead, even regardless with the draw. I think Arsenal are just going to kind of move on from that performance pretty quickly. Say, look, let's go back home cooking. Let's take care of Brentford, and then let's go out a big away game on Villa. What I'm worried about at the moment is this team being overcooked or overdone. I'm worried a little bit about Declan Rice a little bit, because Declan Rice is the most important player to Arsenal. At the moment now, he's like, I can see him having to put in a little bit of extra work because Saliba is now out. He was our best player on the pitch, really, against Bayern for sure. I think the Eze performance really overshadowed was another amazing performance by Rice in that game. And in this one, you can see him just doing so much extra work, and it threw the balance off of our team. So somehow Arsenal's going to have to find a way to rest Declan Rice while also picking up maximum points. It's going to be interesting to see. I feel like this is a important part of the season for us, for Arteta and Arsenal to get right. And I'm putting the pressure on them to do it now, because this is the difference between, going to have to be the difference between us and seasons past. This Christmas period, for me, has been where we screwed. Our seasons have fallen away in past times. I mean, I go back, even the year that we went all the way to the end, that West Ham Fulham game, that like in that last week of 2023 was a nightmare. That's where we lost the league. This time around, we have to do the business. Villa Park, I'm pretty sure we went there in that season as well, lost away. We conceded one goal, I believe it was to McGinn. So that one's coming up. Oh, it's an early kickoff, which is good. I think I prefer us playing there during the day other than night, because that place gets raucous at nighttime. But anyway, guys, that has been my Under Pressure segment for this week. Guys, what do we think about all the conversation about Thomas Frank? The Tottenham fans seem to be a little bit anxious about Thomas Frank. He's a new manager. He's just been hired this summer. I believe it's premature. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Does Cole Palmer need to, show up right away and be peak Cole Palmer right away? Because, by the way, one thing I didn't mention in my argument there, right, is because the fact that Caicedo is out, that's a card that they're missing from the team. So now that they're getting Cole Palmer back, they need to make up for their lack of defensive solidity, which they're going to be honest, let's have, without center backs and missing Caicedo. I know it didn't really affect them that much when they put us, which part of the things that frustrated me in that game, and we'll talk about that on Fire Them Cannons. But starting afresh now here, I know Reece James, is he able to... You don't want to overstress Reece James either. So that attack needs to get a little bit better, and they're hoping that Cole Palmer makes that difference. So do you guys think that he is under pressure now to perform right away and also kind of win back that spot and in the Chelsea team? And are Arsenal under pressure now to get back on the wins? Because let's be honest, of our last 3 games, we've drawn 2. And I haven't really put us under the bus, thrown us under the bus, or threw my toys at the pram into those games. But if we were to drop points again in Brentford, I'm starting to be a little bit anxious. So what do you guys think? Do you think that this is a must-win game or a must-win period of games, this December fixture list for the Gunners? Are they under pressure now to prove that they are willing to not make the same mistakes of years past? This has to be the year Arsenal win the league. They're going to have to do it. So, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. We will be back, of course, with... Actually, we're going to do Anton's picks this week, by the way. I've looked through. I don't really think there'll be many upsets in the midweek. Depends what you guys consider to be upsets. We will talk about that. We'll go through the fixtures in my next video in Upset Alert. But it'll be like more of an Anton picks sort of deal this week. And until then, guys, Anton...